Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video, we are looking at HIMS and HERS health. It is time for another update. And for this stock, we have been tracking a few different interpretations, but ideally, we would have seen a bit more strength than what has materialized so far, even though it has followed through to higher prices. So today, I will show you two paths this stock could be taking, and both of them would have certain expectations to be met. So previously, we have been looking for this to potentially be a wave 1 up. We were looking for the wave 2 correction and the wave 3 that would be expected to materialize in a rather strong fashion. Well, the ideal target for this wave 3 would be the 138.2% extension of the wave 1, perfectly within our area of resistance, our structural resistance area, so it makes a lot of sense to form a more substantial top within this region. Now, for this to actually materialize, for this to actually work out, we would still need to make a lot of progress within this structure, as so far the pattern up is not looking ideal by any means, and as within this structure we are tracking an impulse, that would imply that the wave 3 could actually end up being a lot stronger than what we currently have in place, or a lot weaker. So for this structure, I cannot track a wave 1 to be in, I cannot look for a wave 2 correction. The internal pattern simply doesn't fit this agenda. So what can we look for this to become a wave 3? Well, I would likely need this structure to end up forming a series of 1-2 setups, and as we haven't seen the strength necessary to identify a satisfactory wave 3 that would allow the rest of the price action to carry this stock to the ideal target, we have to assume that the wave 3 has not formed yet. Because if I consider that, okay, I have this as a wave 3 currently information very close to a top, I could be looking for one additional high, let's say, since the ideal target hasn't been met yet, and we will go through that scenario in a moment, then another wave 4 and a wave 5, but the ideal target wouldn't be achieved, right? That was, what, around $68 if I remember correctly. So that would not fit this white scenario. It's not necessarily impossible, it's not necessarily a problem, but in that case, I would need to consider that we are building a larger extended wave 3, and instead that this wouldn't have been the wave 1 up, but instead a series of 1-2 setups within this structure. It is a possible outcome, but it does also imply a more difficult structure. So ideally, we hold the current momentum, we want to see more strength, we want to see this move pick the pace up instead of slowing down. For example, as we have seen within this structure, a decent slope to higher prices. We have seen within this structure, this slope pick up, but the appropriate price action hasn't been delivered for this to even be considered a reliable wave 3. As I said a moment ago, the ideal target hasn't been reached. So, in the case of this structure, I would like instead to track a series of 1-2 setups, more or less in this idea, for it to still be capable to deliver this white wave 3. In this scenario, I would expect to hold pretty high levels of support within this latest 1-2 setup. Yeah, I'm tracking this within a smaller time frame as a 1-2 potentially. And I want to see a wave 3 bring in a lot of strength. Now, typically for a wave 2, I would be able to look for the retracement area to go as deep as the 78.6% retracement before the probabilities really start to shift typically. That would allow a retracement as low as $33. Not so much in the case of this structure, because I am looking once again for the momentum to pick up. And if, for example, I use a trend line from, let's say, this point, and then I draw it to this low, I already have 3 touch points. If we see a push into the 78.6% retracement, maybe even into the 61.8% retracement if this drags on for too long, the momentum would have been lost. Without momentum, this structure is going to have an extremely difficult time forming the expected move to higher prices. So ideally, we actually hold significantly higher levels of support, and what I typically do is rather look for the 50% retracement, which is rather the area of support I would track within a wave 4 correction. And as I share with you this support zone, I move into the different scenario that instead of tracking this as a wave 1 up and this is a wave 2 down, lets me look for this to potentially build instead a slower pace structure where we aren't looking for an explosive move to higher prices. In this pattern, which let's actually track it in yellow, it's not going to work out too well within the larger white interpretation. But within this pattern, I am looking for this to potentially build still a wave 3 up, still within an impulse, but in this interpretation, I am not tracking a single 1-2 setup within this structure, but instead I'm focusing on this being a wave 1 up, this a wave 2 down, and this is a wave 3. In this interpretation, I am able to look for a significantly lower target for the overall wave 3, and I do not know which one of these outcomes will play out, so I have to track them simultaneously. In this idea, the ideal target for the wave 3 is about $43.65, significantly lower, and allows this structure to be capable of reaching those levels. Well, I would still have to look for an impulse primarily, and within this idea, I would be considering that this could have been the wave 1 up, wave 2 down here, and this would be my wave 3 currently in formation. For this interpretation, the wave 3 would need to reach the ideal target, the 138.2% extension of the wave 1, which sits at $40.90. If it fails to do so, it doesn't automatically make this pattern fail, but it is a pretty great warning sign that we might be heading towards a different pattern. So overall, I am tracking here a 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5, and within this structure, we are of course currently within the wave 3, but within this wave 3, we are tracking the wave 5, right? We have a 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5, and within this wave 5, I expect one additional high, where we can still favor this to happen as long as we do not get a sustained break below $35. This even allows the momentum to be kept up. It is also technically possible for this to build the wave 5 and then actually still have the larger expectation work out, and this would end up being something like a larger 1-2 setup. But in that case, I would actually still like for the trend line to be held. I would still like to see significantly higher levels of support held. Then once we have a top within this wave 3, we can look for the wave 4 and the wave 5 to take us again to $43.60, somewhere around that area, to fulfill the minimum expectations. Those are my two primary interpretations for the structure of this stock at this point in time. Within both of them, as you can see, I favor continuation to higher prices within, at the very least, one more high in this area. And if we fail to fulfill this expectation, I do worry for the capability of this stock to still follow through within the larger expectations as well. Right now, it is extremely important to not get the sustained break below the 50% retracement. It is extremely important, if it does happen, that we do not also get a sustained break below the trend line, because in that scenario, we will not be able to even track this scenario of a 1-2 setup, and you can even visualize how this would fit into the larger picture. I'm not saying it would be impossible, but with the strong loss of momentum, I do worry for its capabilities. Now, before we end the video, let's take a quick look into the smaller time frame. So, in this wave 4 correction, I am looking for similar proportions with what I had in this as a wave 2. And this is actually also where the tricky part resides, as within this structure, it is not clear where the wave 1 top is. I could track it to be here, in which case this wave 2 would have taken about a couple of days, right? We can consider this wave 2. This wave 4 is about to span into the same time region very, very shortly as it forms one additional low. But if I drag the wave 1 top here and I track this as being the top, we start to see a different span in terms of the proportions of the correction, and it would still be a bit short at this point in time. Now, typically, the ideal target for the wave 4 is the 38.2% retracement, which is exactly where the lows within this internal structure have formed the bottom. So I find there to be a good chance in finding some additional support in the 38.2% retracement area. ideally even forming a bottom within this region. But for now, there really isn't much else to add. I could tell you of a few different patterns I would be tracking in this move down, but I do not necessarily believe they will end up holding too well. One other interpretation to actually keep in mind is the possibility that this wave 1 could have indeed topped here, but the wave 3 could have topped here, and then this would have been an overshoot, in which case we could get something like an A, B, C pattern. I do see this as a very realistic outcome. But even in this scenario, I would be looking for the same region to actually deliver that bottom, as it is possible to track this as a 5-wave pattern down that would be currently within the wave 5 of the wave C. Not the only possible interpretation, still within an extremely small time frame, still very difficult to trust. And for now, this is about it from me. But if you want even more updates, even more data, even more opportunities, you can check out the Patreon. But yeah, for now, these are the levels, this is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and if you enjoyed the content and want to support it directly, check out the channel membership, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.